the Tera P90. And the Tera P90, we're going to basically be talking about the PEMF benefits in this side of it. So this is a relationship between the Earth's magnetic field and the human body. We basically require this magnetic fields of the Earth to phase lock our third dimensional carbon-based beings into reality. You know, we have we are a soul, we have a body, but our body has to have something to keep it orientated in time and space to say, hey, you live here on Earth. That's what this pulsed electromagnetic frequency does. Basically tells this living body that we have, you are here on Earth, and here is what a minute is, what a second is, and here's how we keep the body running on an appropriate schedule. That's the point of what this whole thing is. We require this magnetic field from the Earth in order to survive. So basically, we talked about that dual torus. You can look down over here in the lower left of this dual torus field. We both have the exact same thing as the Earth does. So when we're out and we're in steel buildings and we've got EMFs and we've got ELFs and we've got HARP and we've got all the other psychotronic weapons and everything else out there, this disconnects us from the Earth. Mentally, it's terrible for us and our stress levels, but physically, the body suffers horribly as well. So by being able to use the device, you just throw your feet onto it. It's, to me, the way I like to put it, it's like going and standing barefoot in the woods for 24 hours straight in a 30-minute session. That's the level of relaxation that I would call it, and the reset for the body and the mind of where it's at. So the pulsed electromagnetic principle basically is saying we're going to simulate the Earth's brain or the Earth's magnetic field right here, right around you, so that we can bring you back into alignment faster and better. There is a glorious book by this individual, Dr. Bryant Myers from the United States, and he's talking about the amount of blood flow that comes in that. We are magnetic and electric beings. Our red blood cells, biconcave discs, when we start to lose our magnetism in our body, our red blood cells are supposed to naturally repel each other so that both sides of the red blood cell can pick up oxygen and then deliver it where it needs to go appropriately. The problem is we start losing that charge, losing that magnetism, lowering our vibration or frequency. That means the red blood cells start to clump together. So if the red blood cells are clumping together, I've now lost all this surface area that's supposed to absorb oxygen. Start stacking a bunch of red blood cells on top of each other. All of this area that's supposed to be absorbing oxygen is now blocked so that we don't have the capacity to pick up oxygen from the lungs and then bring it and deliver it, because the red blood cells are stacked on top of each other, chewing up all the surface area that's supposed to be absorbing oxygen. So we add the pulsed electromagnetic field in, the red blood cells repel themselves again, and they open up all this area to pick up more oxygen. We can get almost a 50% increase in red blood cell oxygenation by restoring this electromagnetic field with PEMF. Now, these next slides, they're talking about the Malaysian health overview, but it's no different than the United States. We got a whole bunch of people with hypertensions. We got a whole bunch of people with hyperlipidemia. We got millions of adults with diabetes. We got how many people in the United States are overweight? Like, it's the same there as it is here. So same reasons as well. Mentally overburdened, manual labor overburdened. We get engaged in stupid, repetitive work that we don't like. We get irregular lifestyle. We get tense relationships. We get stressed. Exact same thing all over the planet. So the traditional Chinese medicine principles, the tired and lack of energy, the afraid of cold, the feeling heavy and uncomfortable in the body's sore and aches, you get numb and swelling and discomfort, you get inflammation, you get bad circulations, you get blockages, you get tumors from it. I'm not saying this device cures cancer. I just said the word tumor. I'm not saying it cures cancer. You can Google terahertz waves and cancer, but I am not claiming that it does. What basically this terahertz waves, all of these things you're looking at right here are lack of fire energy. That's terahertz waves. They're pure fire energy to address a bunch of these things. Once again, not curing cancer. So this pulsed electromagnetic frequencies and microcirculation, this is what I talked about. If two red blood cells are stacked on top of each other, their effectiveness decreases by almost 50%. So these little small capillaries too, if we got all these blood cells or red blood cells carrying oxygen clumped together, they can't get into the capillaries. So we lose all the blood flow into the capillaries. We lose all the microcirculation. What happens then? Nutrient delivery goes out the window. Cells aren't being fed oxygen. They get hypoxic. Then they go into anaerobic respiration. Then we get the reverse Warburg effect. And all this reactive oxygen species build up. And we know what happens after that. PEMF is great that it's addressing the problem is that the red blood cells are clumping together and we can't get the blood flow. It's just one of the many things that happens. Pulse electromagnetic frequency in sleep, my God. I'm a chronic non-sleeper. You can probably tell my energy level and where I operate. I have a lot of different things that I do every single day, plus 4 kids, plus a wife, plus a lot of hobbies, plus a lot of demands. So by the time I finally lay down and go to bed, what do you think my brain does? Here's all the ideas of stuff you've been thinking about that you've been suppressing all day. It's a problem for me. It keeps me up at night. The sleep that I get, and not only myself, so many people that I know, the sleep they get on this device is unlike anything. And it's a much, much better solution than melatonin. Why? Because if you take melatonin, I'm not saying melatonin is bad, but if you take it for an extended period of time, the body stops making its own, making you dependent upon the melatonin. This supports your body to stay. Remember, I talked about phase locking yourself into 3D reality in our 24-hour clock cycle? That's the point of what this is. This helps bring you in and regulates not only your circadian rhythm, but also your parasympathetic nervous system. So you throw your feet on low settings at night for 15 to 30 minutes. It's going to slow you down, slow your brain waves down, relax you, get you ready for bed. In a 2001, they did a study of PEMF for insomniacs. 70% of them reported complete resolution of symptoms, 24% reported significant improvement, and 6% reported a small but critical improvement. So we got 90% of patients with insomnia in this study who received the PEMF had their condition either significantly improved or completely alleviated. I can definitely attest to, boy, did that work for me. Inflammation, big thing too. You get a lack of blood flow. You've got all these pro-inflammatory molecules. They're a natural response. Problem is, though, when we don't have any kind of circulation or anything to clean this area up and let the body do its job, the inflammation just sits there. You already know what happens when inflammation just sits there and what that does to the body. So we can use it to accelerate the elimination of these inflammatory factors and reduce the inflammatory reactions as well. Pain. Pain's a huge thing that happens that's out there. Pulsed electromagnetic frequency regulates and strengthens blood circulation in the painful areas. So think if you got a painful area, what are you trying to do right away? You ice it and you heat it. You're trying to get more blood flow to the area. That's what pulsed electromagnetic frequency does. PEM or terahertz wave therapy also signals nerve remyelination in the body. This is huge because we get a lot of people with neuropathy. We get demyelination of nerves. Neuropathy also comes from lack of blood flow to an area. Can't support the nerves. They don't stay alive. It feels like pain. You start reflowing blood flow to the area. What does the body do? It starts dealing with it on its own, and it can start alleviating that. I'm saying no curing or treating here. I'm just saying we're getting to the root cause, supporting the body, and it can do miraculous things once you do. So we don't have to use drugs for this. I had a lady right across the street. She's had neuropathy in her foot for 20 years. Comes over to drop off some ferns because she saw my orchids in the window. She's like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, it's a long answer, but she's like, okay, well, I'm like, well, the latest thing I'm doing, I'm working with this terahertz wave PEMF device. She's like, oh, does it help with neuropathy? I'm like, actually, we've had great results with people with that. So she says like, oh, well, that's amazing. I'm like, hey, listen, I got a device. I'm going to send it home with you. You try it out for the night. Come let me know how it works for you. Use it for a few days if you need to. Next day, she comes bouncing in. She goes, how do I buy one of these things? I'm like, wait, did it work? She's like, she's even got a TENS unit in her back installed that it stops the pain in her back, you know, traveling up the back, but it doesn't stop in her foot. She comes in, she goes, this is the first night I've slept in 20 years because my foot is always bothering me. She's like, it doesn't hurt at all. She's like, let me get a device right now. I went, okay, sweet. That's the point. It's actually, but the great part is I'm not just selling crap to people. I'm getting people something that will provide insane levels of value in their life. That's what matters to me. It's not the company loyalty. It's not puffing it up going, OlyLife, OlyLife. It's saying, am I helping people? That's all I care about. And I have never seen a singular product that has a higher success rate of people saying, I don't just like the device, I love it. I've had maybe one person said they don't like the device or it wasn't worth it out of 1,000 at this point. That's, I don't know about you, but I've worked in the natural health field for a very long time. To have only about one person, even if it was only one person out of 20 didn't like it. That's a phenomenal success rate in my book to say, okay, we're at like 95% plus of people love their device. That's great. You know, it may take a little bit for them to figure out how to use it, but that's okay. They'll get the benefits, be consistent. Pulsed electromagnetic frequency, osteoporosis. PEMF signals the bones to densify. PEMF and terahertz simulate the piezoelectric effect and activate all the piezo genes in the body to act as if the muscle, the tendons, and the ligaments were under stress. That's how muscles know to get bigger, is when they're stressed. That's when bones get denser, is when they're stressed. It's how tendons and ligaments grow stronger, when they're stressed. So if we can cheat and make it seem like they were under stress without actually ever putting any stress on them, but the body's going to respond to say, hey, make this bone denser, give us more muscle mass, regenerate these tendons, ligaments, and cartilage over here because it's been under stress, but it hasn't. It's a beautiful thing. We're able to cheat. It's awesome. So cartilage regeneration, terahertz waves especially resonate very, very heavily with both water molecules and collagen genes. Collagen and water go very heavily hand in hand. So obesity, pulsed electromagnetic frequency and obesity, I like the terahertz component in terms of upping the metabolism because it's pure fire energy. What is fire energy? It burns stuff up, ups the metabolism. PEMF, though, if you finally got blood flow all over the area, you get your stress addressed, what happens? Your metabolism naturally goes up. So you can start burning off your fat. I've had numerous people that are just like, I'm losing weight and all I'm doing is doing the device, and I shouldn't even be losing weight. It's great. So especially for the aging community. Imagine this. I've got a grandma, God bless her soul. She passed away about 2 weeks before I found out about this device. And she lived in the worst version of hell I could ever imagine because her mind was perfectly sound. She still remembered everything, every single person's name. She was sharp as a tack, but her body was just gone. She had terrible tremors and shakings and the Parkinson's and the side effects from her meds, and just her whole body just fell apart. And I look at it of going, had I been able to get my grandma one of these devices even just a few years ago, it would have completely changed the outcome of how her aging looked, how it happened, and her quality of life. It breaks my heart I didn't have it earlier because, man, she could have been she could have had a completely different end of her life. And God knows how many more years she would have lived because she was literally begging for death. She was in such pain because she basically, like, her hip broke and then she fell because she was just standing on her hip because she didn't move all that much. So the bone density went down. A lot of people think, oh, the person fell, broke their hip. A lot of times actually in the aging community, they broke their hip and that's why they fell, because they got so weak. The bones couldn't handle it anymore because they were so sedentary. So we can cheat. We can literally make it feel like the body had an hour of fairly intense physical activity by throwing your feet on this. Can you imagine what this would do for the people that don't have great mobility? Unbelievable the way we're going to be able to change people's lives with this. Pulse electromagnetic frequency in diabetes. Patients who received the pulse electromagnetic frequency in a study in Russia in 1996, they had a 20% higher chance of improving their blood sugar control than people that didn't. Is that a huge number? No, but it's an improvement. It's sure better than nothing, and it can couple with everything else is the great part. Pulse electromagnetic frequency in Parkinson's disease. There are loads of scientific articles. I'm not going to make any claims here whatsoever. Just go Google PEMF and Parkinson's and look at the studies you find. You don't have to take my word for it. The science articles are everywhere. You don't even have to be that smart to find them. They're all over the place. You don't even have to be smart. You just say it into your phone. Hey, Google, PEMF, Parkinson's. It'll bring it up. You'll find them. It's not difficult to find those. So pulse electromagnetic frequency, promote microcirculation, metabolism, stimulates cell activity, improves obesity, relieves muscle strain, collagen regeneration, smoothing wrinkles, improve lymphatic drainage. It upregulates the organ functions. It activates the gonads and the ovaries. It removes impurities from the body. It eliminates inflammation, delays aging. This list is pretty long, and I've actually barely even touched on the amount of science that's actually out there.